I was told I have to say something salacious at the start, like boobs or dick vein, to kind of grab attention. So, welcome to Stephen's Tangents. I wanted to do this because our main podcast is on a bit of a break at the moment. Harv and his wife have had a beautiful baby girl. He is quite busy between work and with college. So he's got quite a lot on his plate. So we decided to take a break from the podcast for some time so he can kind of focus on those priorities and kind of get things back in order. But I still have the itch to talk to people, and I'm still an attention whore. So here I am. And I was thinking I still have quite a lot to say. So I wanted to talk about a few things. I've been kind of mulling over a few things in relation to ADHD, my own experience, and things I can talk about from my own perspective. And I was thinking, how can I approach this? What's the best way to talk about things from that kind of perspective? How can what can I bring to the table that hasn't already been discussed? And then I was kind of starting to get a bit down on myself, thinking, oh, well, it's all been said before. People have already kind of talked about these kind of things a lot, and there's not a great deal that I could bring. Then myself and Harv started to talk to a lovely guy in Limerick. You might know him on TikTok. His name is Horse O'Keefe on TikTok, and he's got a fantastic podcast called White Long Face, with his name being Horse. Really good. He's an absolute artist. He's not just a podcaster. He's a filmmaker. He's a musician. He is a singer. He's a book writer. So many talents this guy has. And we were talking back and forth about a few things, because his main focus and the main thread that runs through all of everything he produces always seems to come back to mental health. So yeah, we were talking a lot about like the different things that he's produced, like the music he's produced, the podcast, what the short form videos he does on TikTok, the book, things like that. And it all seems to come back to mental health. That seems to be the main thread that ties it all together. So as we were having these conversations, and as we were kind of working along, and we were talking about loads of different things, we were talking about how we could work together. And down the line, ADHDerpCast may feature on his podcast. He may feature on ADHDerpCast. But as a natural part of the conversation, we were talking about age. And he's considerably younger than I am. He's 26, I think he said he was. And I am 43 at the moment. I just turned 43 in July. And he didn't seem as struck by that as I was. I was like, that was like a smack of a frying pan to my face. I was like, Jesus, in another time and another life, technically speaking, I'm old enough to be his dad. And that was just like, holy shit, I'm old. Oh no. And I could feel my bones crumbling, and this is the end. There's like, why are you trying to do anything? There's like, the younger crowd are just coming up all the time. And that was a bit of a spiral for a little while. I've never really been overly bothered by age. It's never really been something that has been a trigger point. Like, I got through my 30s, my 40s. Never really, I didn't have like the midlife crisis kind of thing. I say this as someone with a mohawk, and I'm constantly fighting my husband to allow me to dye it blue. That fight doesn't seem to go my way anymore. But I've never really been like that. That's not an age related thing. That's the way I've been my entire life. But when he said that, it struck me. Like, I was almost visibly shaken by how, when I was interacting with this guy, age didn't matter. It wasn't something that was even on my radar when I was talking to him. It wasn't something that I was factoring when I was listening to his opinion, when we were talking about like what he's produced in the past, what we've produced in the past, what my journey has been, how he has come to certain realizations, how I've progressed through life. That age was never a factor in any of that. And when I thought about it, I realized it was kind of like when he said his age, and it like I felt my brain trying to shut down the conversation a bit and be like, he hasn't got a clue what he's talking about. He's only young. He hasn't had this life experience and all this kind of stuff. I realized that there's a definite bias there between the two generations, and there's two different sides. Like, this guy is 26. He's, in terms of like producing art or content, he's done way more than I have. He has a wealth of experience. He has so much knowledge in terms of how to actually do this thing that I've only just started in. He is so much more advanced than I am. For me to dismiss his point of view purely because he is just because he was born after I was is ridiculous. It makes absolutely no sense. Why would I disregard? Like, when I was that age, if someone had done that to me, I would have taken that as the highest level of offense. Now, I should point out, I didn't actually do anything. I didn't actually, like, he wouldn't have seen that I had that inward struggle. This was all very, very internal, and it was a big kind of inner battle and inner realization. It really struck me that people of the, like, on opposite ends of the spectrum face bias for various reasons. I've started to face bias because of my age as well. Like, I've started to kind of be, Jesus, you're ancient. I'm 43. Like, I don't feel old at all a lot of the time. I say that as a curmudgeonly, grumpy bastard who, like, in the evenings when I'm sitting down in my slippers and there's kids playing outside after my own child is asleep, I'd be like, why are those kids out? Who's, like, why aren't they in? Why aren't they in bed? Who's letting those kids out? Jesus, it's awful late now. Yeah, no, I'm a typical grumpy bastard, and the music of this generation isn't that not music really at all? And I say it as someone who's like that, but I don't feel like I'm old. I don't feel like my image of what a 43-year-old was when I was, say, Horse's age. My image of a 43-year-old was like what I'd kind of picture someone who's in their 50s or 60s now. And as I'm saying that, I'm realizing that even that is its own insensitivity. But how I pictured people aging is not how I feel about myself, you know? I still feel like there's so much that I have to say, so much I have to do. I feel like I'm only starting in putting out what I want to put out there. But I'm only at the beginning of that, but I'm already feeling like I'm getting pushback. I already feel like there's a generation underneath me who are like, you're too old, you're past it. Now, none of this is coming from that conversation with Horse. It is coming from other places. It's coming from other sources and things like that. It's in other conversations. I'm definitely feeling disrespect for age, let's call it. Even in the gay community, I'm a gay man. I'm a proud flaming homosexual. But when I'm talking to other LGBT people, particularly male identifying LGBT people, there is a very definite age bias in the community. And I know that there's one part in particular that is just so convoluted and so tied up in, I don't even know what it's tied up in, but it's just, for me, it's just bizarreness personified. So in the gay community, as in the straight community, there is fetishization of the word daddy, and it's never one that's really sat right with me. It's always felt a bit weird. I've had a complex relationship with my own father. He's passed now. He's passed 10 years. But I've had a very complex relationship with him over my life. And it was never a word that I would have desired to fetishize. And it was never something that I would want to bring into those kind of romantic situations, saying the word daddy. So I had always kind of strayed away from that anyway. But a lot of my peers and a lot of people in the community would have used it. Like there was even, I don't know if there still is, but there was even a club night in Dublin called Daddy. There was DADDI, not DADDY, because I'm sure that's important. Like it's something that you see all the time. I was recently at a stag do or bachelor party if you're in America in Manchester, and there was a club night over there called the DILF. So it's kind of worldwide, the whole daddy thing. It was never really something that vibed with me. Then I became a dad, and it's still something like same-sex parents, although becoming more normal and becoming more seen. And there's I'm definitely seeing it more and more in the community, but it's still kind of just a little bit outside of people's viewpoint that they don't see it as much. So like when I'm talking to people, and like when I'm talking to other gay people, and I say, oh, I'm a father, or I have a child, their first initial reaction is that I'm a married man who's cheating on his wife. The second one is that I was previously in a relationship with a woman, and now I'm in a relationship with a man, and the child was a product of the relationship with the woman. And most times it takes a while before people get to that I have a child with my husband. And that's bizarre. Because for me, it's so normal. Like my day in, day out is looking after my daughter. It's not a secondary thing. But when I've been talking to gay people or people who are in the LGBT community, one guy in particular said something to me, and it's never really left me. And it kind of highlights the crossover between the fetishization of the word daddy and the actuality of being a parent. And he said, well, we were just in a conversation, and I said, oh yeah, I have a daughter. At the time, I think she was 1. And he was like, so you're not a daddy anymore, you're just a dad. That I'm both. They're the same thing. But obviously to him, nope, they were two very, very, very different things. So yeah, that was a stark realization for me that a daddy doesn't necessarily have anything to do with being a dad. But I've noticed, segueing smoothly into a conversation about age and the LGBT community, I was never really a major player in the LGBT community as it was, and I'm sure I'm going to get heat for this, but there is a definite kind of older people or people who are past a certain age are very definitely pushed out. Their opinions are disrespected. Their input isn't taken on board. Apps like dating apps and things like that, they're like as a standard, they tend to get blocked. They're viewed as creepy. They're viewed as insidious almost. And it's ridiculous and it's horrible. And I know there are like people do have experiences that can lead them to these realizations or these conclusions, but it just like blanket disrespects like a whole group of people because they're over a certain age. It doesn't make sense. My personal experience is every single person, no matter their age, no matter their experience, they have something to offer. They have a viewpoint to share. Even if that viewpoint is, I don't know anything and I want to learn, and I'm here to absorb and gather information because I don't know anything, because I'm so new to this. That in itself is a viewpoint. And from my perspective, that helps people who do have something to share. It helps them bring that out of them as well. There's something to bring regardless of your age, regardless of your stage in life. Like I've said it to people before when they've gone to change career, when they've gone to take on something new at a non-standard time. Like at the start of my career, I went into hairdressing when I finished in Ireland. It's the Leaving Cert, but like your final school before you go into college. I didn't go to college at that stage. I went into working straight away, and I was training as a hairdresser. I started that at 19, and even then, like 19 is young to be starting working. Even then, there was almost an impression or kind of, well, you're a bit late to the game now, because a lot of people back then would have dropped out of school at 16. And I just said back then as if I'm ancient. But a lot of people, when I would have been going into that vocation, would have dropped out of school at 16 and started their hairdressing apprenticeship. So at the age I was starting, which was 19, a lot of those people would have been in their third year or going into their fourth year, or in some cases already qualified. So I was starting on the back foot as it was. Now, I didn't last in hairdressing. I did 3 years. I left when I was 21. I was coming up to my third year. And it really, really, really was so majorly not for me. That should have been a clue that... Anyway, I'm not going down that road. So yeah, I left hairdressing when I was 21 and kind of went in and was exploring different options at that point of what I wanted to do. Why isn't that camera focusing? I know this is audio only, but I wanted to record video to have for like short form and TikTok and stuff like that, or just to see if I wanted to use the video for this. And the camera just keeps unfocusing. It's like in a podcast about age, I do enjoy how the camera is trying to constantly put me in soft focus. It's like, you're ancient bitch. But yeah, I think I have waffled on enough for this for now. My final kind of thought is I would encourage people who are listening to this, when you're thinking about age, or when you're thinking about people's experience, try and give a second thought. First of all, of if it's someone who's younger than you, think what you were like at that age. Think how you would have felt if someone had cut off your opinion because of your age, and how it would have made you feel. And if it's someone older than you who you are disregarding, like that they're past it, or sure, they don't know what they're talking about, they don't know what it's like these days, try and kind of put yourself forward and how you'll feel then. How it'll feel to feel so disconnected from the world that people are making you feel like you don't know what's going on. People are making you feel like that you don't have a right to the world around you because you've already lived. It's bizarre the way we disregard these kind of things. It's certainly that interaction with Horse, and I highly encourage you, if you haven't checked him out, let me just get up his social so I can give you this accurately. If you haven't checked him out, I very, very strongly encourage that you do. He has such amazing insight. He is so open about so much, and it's so refreshing to see someone talking so openly about their mental health journey. I'm not going to say struggles, because he talks about the good points and the bad points. He talks about things from a really unique perspective. We were talking in a group, and someone said about how they felt they were like basically in a well and they couldn't climb out, and like everything felt insurmountable. And he took that analogy and he flipped it into something positive. And he flipped it into something so inspiring with a suggestion of how to kind of combat that and how to turn it into action. And he has so much insight and so much to share. I'm just getting his socials now. He is on on TikTok. He is at Horse O'Keefe. So HORSEOKEEFFE. And his podcast on Spotify. I'm not sure if it's on other platforms. It may be. I should probably check that with him. But in the description of this, I'll share the Spotify link. He is Wide the Long Face. Again, going with the horse team. I'm just checking his link tree to see if it is anywhere else. Okay, when you go to that, it only links to Spotify. So I'm assuming he only has it hosted on Spotify. But even that is so insightful. It's mostly him talking about various topics, but like film, mental health, music. He has some guests on it as well. But absolutely check him out. He is so smart, so insightful, and he's hilarious as well. So yeah, that's been Stephen's Tangents. That has been enough waffle for today. I'm going to be doing these again. I'm going to try and do these weekly, I think. It's hard to get the time, what with work and baby and life in general just continually conspiring against me for doing these kind of things. But I really want to get back to talking to people, to getting this out there. So if there's anything you want to hear me talk about, or if anyone wants to even have a chat with me and come on this and we'll just shoot the shit for a while and just talk bollocks, let me know. Reach out to me, send me a message, and we will have a chat. I'm going to put up my own social as well as the ADHDerpCast socials. I'm going to put them in the description. Feel free to reach out to me. My Instagram is at Steo_Roberts. I'll put that in the description as well. Get in touch, and we can have a chat in the future. Thank you. Bye.